Oh, hello. Welcome to the Antisocial Podcast. My name is Andy Dowling, and if this is the first time you've ever heard this podcast before, welcome. Thank you so much for downloading or streaming an episode for the first time to get a bit of a taste of what this is all about. I've been doing this for a little while now, still pretty new to the whole thing, but so far so good. If you want to get a gist of what this podcast is, the main thing about it is just having conversations with people and learning a bit more about the people that are good friends of mine that I might not have certain things I might not have known about or I might not have had a conversation about in the past, but also speaking to people that I've never spoken to before and getting a few different perspectives on life and learning a few things along the way. So very open and potentially vague description of what the podcast is, but it's as casual as that. And over time, it might be a bit more streamlined. But for me, this is all about just stories. It's all about just conversation and just seeing wherever the chats go in whatever direction it may be. So getting straight into it, as always. Well, not as always, because I'm usually blabbing on and I'm going off on a tangent straight away. But this episode features a great friend of mine, Duane Jackson. Duane's probably best known for the bass player in Electrik Dynamite. And he also plays in a band called Midnight Parlour, based out of Melbourne, originally at Bendigo. I've known Duane for quite a few years. We actually toured together. Electrik Dynamite played with us at the end of 2012. We did a bit of a tour together, and that was a lot of fun. And over the last few years, we stay in contact, but Electrik Dynamite sort of fallen under the radar for various reasons, and we talk about that in this episode. But it's definitely great to see that things appear to be back on track and full steam ahead, not just for Electrik Dynamite themselves as a collective, but Duane certainly got a lot of stuff going on, and he seems to be, as the term is, winning at life. So I'm going to put a whole bunch of links in the show notes, so check that out over at andysocial.net. As always, this podcast is available on iTunes, Stitcher, a couple of other platforms that I'm not sure will or will not be around, but you can just Google search it and you'll find them, and on YouTube as well. So whatever you're listening to this through, thank you so much. And if you do want to share any of the episodes around, please, that'd be fantastic. I always recommend that you share the YouTube links around because they're usually the best way to introduce people to what podcasts are all about, because podcasts tend to be something that is still fairly new here in Australia, at least within the music scene anyway. I know that a lot of Australian comedians have embraced it, but it's still a bit of an untouched platform, and I'm doing my best to try and break down a few of those walls and get more people embracing podcasts and listening to mine, of course. But there's a number of other great ones out there, both in Australia and overseas as well. So any way that you guys can spread the word about podcasts in general, or specifically about this show, that'd be greatly appreciated. Anyway, enough of all that. All the show notes will be on antisocial.net. Please enjoy this great conversation with my good friend, Duane Jackson. That is me.
Hey, how you doing, mate?
Good, yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. Long time no speak.
Yeah, it's been ages.
It's been a little too long, I must say.
Yeah, indeed. Sounds like we've both been busy.
Yes, we both have been busy. Start with yourself. What have you been up to, sir?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll take the stage. I don't know, just doing this little podcast thing and getting domesticated a little bit, and still trying to balance the band stuff and everything. So a bit of fingers in all parts of the pie.
Multiple fingers, multiple pies.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah,
it's a pie swingers party up in your house.
For sure. Well, I'll ask you the same question, but I expect the answer to last for at least half an hour to an hour or an hour and a half or something like that. So I'll break it up a little bit and we'll go from there. But I guess first of all, I might just jump straight into it. And we'll get to the Electrik Dynamite stuff in a sec, but what and who the hell are Midnight Parlour? Because I only found this out last night. I was looking on your page and you're playing in this band. I'm like, I've never even heard of this band before. So what's that all about?
Yeah, so actually my best mate Dale and we started Midnight Parlour. It was probably like 4 years ago. It was under the name Dead Visions originally. It was a slightly different lineup, but the musical goal was pretty much the same as what we're doing in Midnight Parlour. It was just play, kind of garage, rock and roll, grungy stuff, simple, well-written songs that are easy to play live and get drunk to and have a fun time. Like his previous band, Assemble the Empire, they're like a progressive kind of post-hardcore band. And obviously with Electrik Dynamite also being a technical band, we've both been in those kind of bands where on stage you can have fun, but you can't really let go. There's a certain level of professionalism you'd have to deliver musically to play the music we both have played before. And there's two things we love doing is like getting drunk and watching basketball together. So we were like, stuff this, let's do a band so when we're getting drunk and the game's finished, before we head out, we can be writing music. So that's essentially how it started. The previous lineup disbanded due to member issues. Fast forward, probably close to almost a year to the date, and Dale tells me he's met this dude Cam, who's a great drummer. So we just decided to give it a crack as a three-piece, and it worked. We've only played one show so far. What the issue with being dudes that have been in bands before and not necessarily playing in a scene that we've come from is networking becomes a huge issue. So the style bands that we should be playing with, we're not affiliated with anyway. So it makes it hard to get gigs. So, with the way bookers are these days, it's always, we want a whole package. Like, give me 4 bands and we'll put you on a night. It's like, we can't even find 4 bands because we don't know any bands that play this kind of music because, I'm either a cherry bar, listen to dirty 80s and rock and roll, or I'm at other kind of gigs. And that was the same. So we haven't really found our niche in that kind of grungy rock scene, which is huge in Melbourne, but we just haven't found a niche there. So we just haven't really played anything. So that's our next port of call. It's just getting back in and getting rehearsing and trying to get some gigs under our belt because it's a lot of fun.
It'd be kind of cool in a way because you're almost really going back to square one like you would with any band starting from scratch, and from that networking point of view, going out there and doing the basic fundamentals that most bands do when they start out. Like, I mean, I haven't done that for a long time, so I think it's kind of refreshing. It's kind of cool, exciting to be going out there again and just trying to, especially with a whole new scene of people that you've got no prior connections with. It's one thing to sort of go back into the usual crowd and say, hey, I've got a new band, check us out. But to go up to more or less strangers in a completely unfamiliar scene and start building relationships with new people, it's kind of exciting, I assume.
Yeah, well, it's crazy to think because, we're pretty sport when it comes to the metal scene in that regard because, it's often people do other bands and it's within the metal scene, but you always have the safety net of the metal brethren, congregating around what you're doing, whether it be death or black or like rocky metal or metalcore, whatever. It's like, there's still that kind of 6 degrees of separation stylistically. So you start a new band and your mates will still come and watch it because you're a metal band or whatever. But for this, it's completely different. It's completely removed from what we do, and it literally is starting from the bottom. As exciting as it is, you also remember how difficult it is because times have changed so much. And, like 10 to 5 years ago, you go out and you do it this way, you network that way, and it works. And now you kind of do that, and new bands kind of get their back up a little. It seems to be a little bit more competition between things, and because everything's so internet based these days, and everything's about being social media savvy, it takes away that element of almost that band courtship where you bro down with bands and go, hang on, we're out for the same thing, we're not out to be against each other, let's fucking do some gigs together and kick some ass. Like that, it seems to not happen as much. If you're not affiliated with a band early on, it seems to be a bit more competitive. But that being said, maybe that is that scene that we're trying to break into. Maybe that comes with the territory. Who knows? Because as I said, we're not really affiliated with it, so it's all learning. It's all back to square one for us.
Well, it's kind of like that whole digital thing where in some ways we're more connected than ever, but in other ways we're more disconnected than ever. Not having that sort of face-to-face sort of grassroots connections that a lot of us have experienced in the past when we were all getting into the scene and playing bands for the first time, and you would go out and socialise with people face to face to try and build up your networks and your posses of people and mates that would come out and support you. But now it's for anyone who's probably in their late teens or mid-teens that are getting a band together, I mean, they're really, for the most part, I mean, even in their legal age of going out to bars and whatever, you're still relying so much on social media now to convince people. You can't just rock up to people at a show and twist their arm like you used to.
Yeah, it almost sounds like Lord should write a song about that. But yes, well, this is my show tonight, mate.
Yeah, that's right, exactly right. Well, I was actually going to say, speaking of song topics, given that there's a mutual love there of basketball, maybe you should write a song about playing basketball, or at least watching the NBA.
Yeah, well, that could be fun. That's probably definitely something that Midnight Parlour could do, even though, it's the lyrical choices Dale make are generally like a bit of that tortured grunge rock artist that he does so well, after
you just
a couple
have to mask it a bit.
Yeah, well, that's it. Or either that, or we just watch basketball and then write music, mate. It's easy either way. It's all fun,
Yeah, sounds good. So I think most people who would be aware of who you are would know you mainly from Electrik Dynamite, probably more so than anything else. But I know you've been around for quite a number of years, especially in the Melbourne scene. So I think there's probably a lot of people there are a number of people that listen from Melbourne who probably know you from various different sort of corners of the city in various roles and whatnot. But I'll touch on Electrik Dynamite because I think a big part of this is I really want to find out a bunch of things about all the other aspects that you do, because you're sort of multifaceted, and I'm loving what you said. You mentioned last night about doing a lot of freelance based work, and I definitely want to pick your brain about a lot of that. But with Electrik Dynamite, this might be more of laziness on my behalf, but it appeared from my perspective that you guys sort of dropped off the radar for quite some time, and then you've popped your head back up for a little bit, then you disappeared for a bit longer, then you've popped your head back up again, and now it's only just been recently where it seems that everything's really sort of moving again. You guys are making some big headway. Yeah,
well, it's not laziness on your behalf at all. That's exactly what happened. We did a fundraiser, I think either last year or the year prior to raise funds for an album, which we did through Eureka Rebellion Trading. It was a really awesome night. We raised a bunch of money. We realised we weren't where we wanted to be with the songs that we had, and where we wanted to be as a band moving into the sophomore recording process. So what we did, we went in and used that money to record 2 singles. They were It's No Dream and Hard to Kill. So they came out at the start of last year. Between there and mid-year, we started to play less and less, and we noticed the mutual vibe was kind of digressing in the band. Like, I'm not going to lie, everyone in the band will admit this, we don't need to have a brave face of bravado going, everything's always awesome, because that generally, most bands it's not. And, you find out the more you work in the industry and the more you're around bands, it's, there's a lot more going on than you really realise. But basically, it all came to a head. Dan, our previous singer, he's from Bunbury, out west, and he was just having trouble being away from home, and he was having some real estate issues here. And he just went up and went home. So, and me being a good friend of Dan, and I'm always person first. Like, as much as I love my band and I love my brothers, I want you to be happy. It's probably why we've gone through so many members, because I haven't been hard. If someone wants to move on, they move on. It's not a one-man gang, and I'm not going to hold you for ransom doing something you don't want to do anymore. If you miss your friends, you miss your family, you're struggling here because of real estate, whatever, you got to do what's best for you. So Dan moved back out west, and I've spoken to him since, and he's doing fantastic out there. He's reformed Shots Fired, the previous band that he was in. They're they're a full-piece rock and roll band, and that's how I actually discovered Dan originally. So he's gone back to that, and we actually were lined up to support Yngwie Malmsteen when Dan left. So scammering to get some stuff sorted, we spoke to Luke, who's our current singer, because he's an old friend of ours. We always drink with him, we always hang out. He's an amazing guitarist, he's played in bands before, and we know he's a great singer. it wasn't until he got in the studio, like in the rehearsal room with us, we were like, holy shit, he is so good. Luckily for us, because it was rushed, that Ingve support slot fell through. That was around the time I went across to London with my partner for 4 or 5 months, mid last year. And while we were away, it kind of felt like we were all ready to pack it in. You know, it was just like, you know what, let's just, you know, everyone's got other things on their plate. As much as we love it, we're just not pulling in the right, we're not all pulling together. We're not unified in what we want to do. However, while I was away, we got offered the Sebastian Bach local support in Melbourne at the Forum. I'm like, you know what, maybe we'll just secretly make this our last show, play the show, and we'll see how it goes. And we have not had a show like that. We hadn't had a show like that quite a while, where we come off stage and we were just like friends, new friends, old friends, just everyone was like, holy shit, who are you? Or that was the best we've seen you, you know? And those comments, like from people that we know, like that's the best we've seen you, or finally you've got what you need to, you know, go back out in the live music scene in Melbourne again and do what you guys love doing. That we're kind of like, hang on, that felt so right. Why would we, you know, take that opportunity away from us? So we got back together and we you know, held the old team meeting. It was probably at the Corner Hotel or something, you know, something fun like that. Yep. And we spoke about it, and it was just basically like, yeah, what are we doing? As if we don't want to do this. This is our 10th year being a band in various lineups, but we still all love it and we genuinely love what we do. Why not? Let's try and push for that second album that we all owe it to ourselves, because, you know, we've got a ton of music lined up in the bank. We can probably write even more now with Luke in the fold. And yeah, let's give it a crack. So, you know, we spoke to Shrimp, our manager, Simon Christian from Kill Rockstar and various other avenues, and said these are our plans. And you know, to be honest, he was kind of a foot out the door at the same time, because we weren't really doing anything. And the Buck Cherry tour actually came up, which was a result of him. You know, we're not going to lie, he works with a promotion company that brought them out, and he's like, yep, you know, we'll give you the opportunity on these shows, we'll see how you go. And you know, straight after that first Melbourne show, he was like, you nailed it, mate, you nailed it, you know, you've got it, you're back, I have complete faith in what you do. And it only got better. Brisbane got better, and Sydney really kept it off. That was such a kick-ass show, and it felt like almost a hometown show. The Sydney crowd was unbelievable, so receptive. I hung out at the merch table afterwards, and there was just nothing but good feedback. And, you know, not new dudes blown away by us as a band, but, you know, old friends that turned up in Sydney are just going, God, you're a new singer. Like, you've got it. You've nailed it. You're finally what you need. You know, he's everything you guys have always needed as a singer. And that's no disrespect to Ryan and Dan, because, you know, I love them both dearly. But, you know, it's business at the end of the day. And God, you've gone through members before, you know what it's like. Sometimes you have the best dude who's an awesome talent, but then suddenly someone new comes in and you're like, holy shit, this is actually what we needed. So yeah, that's basically where we're at now. We just come off the end of the Buck Cherry shows, you know, thanks to Kill Rockstar for having us on. And yeah, we just did a headline show at the Old Bar, which is an awesome bar in Fitzroy here in Melbourne, which was basically a way to come home and play to all their friends. You know, people that couldn't spend the ticket money going to see us Buck Cherry, and it was an absolute piss fest, and it was unreal.
Awesome. It must be, I mean, just you mentioning that sort of path over the last sort of, I don't know, 6 to 12 months or whatever it's been, it must be such a massive relief and almost like I'm just trying to think of a non-wanky way of saying it, but like it's almost like a rebirth of the band in a way, to have that new element in there, but more so just to get such positive feedback from people, just validating the decisions that have been made and all the extra effort that you guys have all put in, because as you said, you got so close to just saying, you know what, let's end on a high note and do this high profile show last year, but then you've made a decision just to kick it on for a bit longer, and obviously it's starting to pay off and it's going in the right direction. Yeah,
well, actually, one of our good friends, Timmy Anderson, who plays in a number of bands around here too, he said it best. After that Old Bar show, he's like, you know, you guys have the ability, I don't know how you do it, but you have the ability every few years to reinvent yourself with a new member, and you come out as a better version of what you were. And it's so true, but at the same token, it's now at the point where it's like, you know what, as hard as it is to be in a band with 6 members, because unless you've been in a band with 6 members, you don't realise, you know, like flying from Melbourne to Brisbane, you know, it doesn't cost you 3 tickets or 4 tickets, it's 6 tickets to fly anywhere. So you can't travel in an 8-seater, because once you put 6 band members in there plus your gear, you're full. so you got to travel in 12-seaters, so then you don't have unlimited Ks, and you're paying at your ass for the van hire. So everything we do costs more. So for us to do what we want to do, we have to be exceptionally dedicated to what we do. So we're at this stage now. It's like, well, this is the lineup. We believe it. We've said this before, and it's one of those things where you can look at us from the outside and go, okay, we've heard this before, but I trust me when I say it. When you see this incarnation of Electrik Dynamite, it feels like the right band. It feels like Electrik Dynamite, full stop. So it's a great relief to have Luke. He lives around the corner from me too, which is amazing. We're all a lot closer. We're back to socialising a lot more on a level because we just all get it. We're all into the same shit, and we all have fun together, and we've all got the same network, which makes it so much easier. We just love to hang out and drink and listen to music and do the same shit that we always have loved doing, but it's just fresh and it's fun.
That's cool.
And that's the biggest thing. If you're not having fun, man, like, why are you doing it?
Well, that's true. I mean, as simple as it might sound, it's probably the most crucial thing out of it all. I mean, why would you do anything if there's not an underlying passion and love for it? So you're spot on. But what's the plans for the next few months for you guys? Are you going to try and record a little bit with him to start getting bedded in, or are you going to do some more shows? What's the short term or even long term?
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to do some more shows. We've got some more shows lined up with, dates and all that will be on our Facebook soon. We definitely do have a Cherry Bar gig lined up in May, which will be another headline show. I think that's with Two-Headed Dog and Atomic Riot. So that's going to be an awesome night. The Atomic Boys are really good friends, as are the Dog Boys. So we got that lined up, and there's a couple other shows in the works. I actually go back overseas in June. And there's a couple of June shows in the works as well, which I'm unfortunately going to miss. But I've got some opportunities overseas which I need to partake in. But I'm away for another few months, so in that time, the plan is to do some more writing, round out potentially 15 album tracks or whatever we want, and then really work on those so that we know when we do have the chance to get into the studio, we've got a strong amount of songs and we can actually select the 10 best or the 11 best or whatever whom we work with suggests. Because there's no use going in with 10 songs and thinking they're the 10 best songs and you realise 4 are filler. We've got the time, we've waited this long, what's another 6 months, man? No one's desperately needing us to release an album straight away. We're going to do this because we want to do it. We're going to release the record we want to release. We're going to take the time we're going to take, and we're going to do it where we want. And just enjoy it. Enjoy the process again, realizing we're blessed to be in a band with such good musicians and awesome dudes. And it's like, well, fuck, let's have some fun with it and do exactly what we want.
That's it. I mean, music, as people always say, music's timeless, and if you half-ass something, and once it's out there, and you can try and forget about it, but it's literally out there. So you're better off waiting and crafting it, and there's no, as you said, there's no rush with any of this sort of stuff, and you'd rather, from a long-term perspective, put out the best thing that you possibly can. And if you've got 15 and you end up with 10, then you've got potentially 5 songs that are left off that potentially could be remolded further down the track or used as additional things later on. I mean, we always do that within Lord as well. We've always got extra stuff lying around that we can utilise later on down the track.
When you think about it too, man, like when we did our last album, Head Denim Sex Murder, that was 2010, and that was just after Cam and Lockie joined the band. They literally joined the band. We went on tour with There's Murder for like 3 weeks or something. Came back, was a small period of time, and then we're in the studio. So we literally got those guys in, we churned out a bunch of songs, went on to recorded that record, and I still feel it stands the test of time. There's a few tracks in there that we all agree on that are noticeably filler songs, but overall we're stoked with it. So now we have the opportunity with pretty much the same lineup, with a new singer and a new drummer, to just spend our time, do what we want to do. And when Cam and Lockie as songwriters are energised and invigorated because of the situation we're in, we're only going to get better material.
Absolutely. Jeez, I didn't realise how much time's passed.
Yeah, it has, man.
2010, far out.
When did we go on tour with you guys? Was that 2013?
I think it was the end of 2012, actually. So
Yeah, so look at that. Like, time's gone so fast, man. I mean, but at the same time, it's like, what's really happened, especially in this scene, and like in terms of good releases and stuff that's memorable in the last 5 years. It's like nothing's really happened.
It's interesting. I mean, I guess it depends on where you sit in the whole thing. Because I think that there's probably a lot of bands that are doing great things, but it depends on the circles that you're in as well. And I mean, I think for us, like we hadn't quite released our last full-length album when we went on tour with you. It was meant to be out, but then it got delayed. So we thought, we'll do a pre-album tour. But I mean, our last album came out 2013. So we're coming up to 3 years since the last proper, original release came out. So it's, I mean, time flies,
It does, man.
And not that you feel the pressure, but you sort of, after a while, you start to get that itchy feet where you go, oh shit, we haven't actually put out. I mean, we've done like an EP or whatever, but like a full length album, we haven't done it, and sort of you start to feel a little bit and go, oh, getting a bit restless now. I think we need to pull our finger out and do something about it. Yeah, that's it, man. I mean, like a lot of our friends, like Dead City Ruins, they're back in the studio doing an awesome album, and Elm Street did an EP, and they're doing another album now, and Roxy from Dela Cruz, who's got his own solo project, Catalana. I mean, he's just done an album. It's like that's good.
Awesome stuff's churning out. That's definitely not what I meant by nothing's happened. It just feels like nothing blockbuster in the scenes happened. You're like, oh, this happened in 2012. This happened in 2013. That was more of that vibe.
Or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, there's awesome music coming out, and it feels great to be a dude that's proud of the Australian metal scene and the Australian rock scene, because we stand up against the world, and some of our bands are just blow me away all the time. So it's cool to be mates with all those dudes.
Yeah, and it's good to know. I think from the outside anyway, it appears that bar is getting raised more and more. So I think the standard and the expectations of what Australian bands should be is getting higher and higher. So the quality is getting better and better, and there's more bands than ever that are taking the plunge and trying to get overseas to play, or doing the large Australian-wide tours and whatnot, and actually getting out of their hometown. So, and even from an aesthetic point of view, people are taking a lot more pride in the way that they present their band, whether it be something very simple like their logo, or on stage with banners, and the way that they present themselves in promo photos and whatnot. For me, I notice that a lot more now than I did probably 5 years ago or 6-7 years ago, where it didn't seem to be as much of a focus. And I think, and then people wondered why no one took them seriously. So
yeah, well, dude, that's it. It's like people from a young age realize it's as sad as it is. It's a product. What you do, your brand is a product. Like your brand presents itself, and you release product, and you have to market that product. And due to the bands, the heavyweight bands in Australia, from Psychroptic, Idols Murder, like North Lane, In Hearts Quake, Amity Affliction, all these bands that have shown Australian bands that it is possible to go overseas and to tour and to get your name out there. Tonight Alive even, and all these other bands, it's like, what sets them apart? Their work ethics, the management behind them, the way they represent themselves, from the logos, band photos, everything, and they have good music. So no matter how good they look and present themselves, they back it up with their ethic, their music, and their ability to hit the road and work their asses off. And that's the biggest thing. Is you don't get anything for free in this industry, and it shits me when you have these new bands and these young bands that come out and they just want to be at the top. It's like, well, what have you done to deserve it? We're in Australia. Australia's very blue collar. Work your ass off. Make someone notice you. And it's, we've been working our asses off for almost 10 years. But that being said, there's still a room for us to work harder, and that's what we need to do to take that next step. And we know that. We're not going to pretend that the world owes us everything, and it doesn't. We'll release this next album, and it'll be awesome, and we'll take the next step we need to take from there.
Yeah, that's it. And it's not one like simple formula that equates to whatever your definition of success is either. There's so many different, as you said before, you just went through all the different examples of the substance, of the music itself, the work ethic, the management, the marketing or the image or all these sort of things. It's all a combination of all these different elements that makes a band achieve any form of success. And there's not one simple formula or one simple aspect that a band goes, well, I'm doing that, why aren't I getting results?
Oh, definitely.
There's a big pinch of luck on top of that as well. So
definitely that too.
Yeah, but I think I see overall, there's still a lot of bands out there that love to sit on social media and whinge about how bad the industry is and whatnot, but for the most part, or maybe I've just culled all of the people out of my life, but a lot of the people that I see tend to they tend to get it, and I think there are a lot of them are achieving and doing things that the majority of bands weren't doing quite a few years ago. So it's cool to see, and it's inspiring, and I think for at least from my neck of the woods, it certainly adds a bit of extra fuel to the fire when it comes time for us to do the next swing of an album and tour and whatever it might be. So it's cool.
I'm definitely looking forward to you guys doing your next step. Always been a fan and looking forward to that. But what I was going to say is, people just need to remember that it's an art industry. Music is art. Realistically, art doesn't equate to money. So, everything's glamorized with rock and roll, and everyone sees the big dollars at the end of the magical rock and roll rainbow. But it's an art industry, and if you get into art to make money, you're in it for the wrong reason.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen quite a few people that. Well, we had such a high turnover of bands years ago, where bands would be around for 6 to 12 months and then just disappear, and you go, oh, well, what the hell's going on there? That band had potential, but then you find out that half the guys in the band were expecting to sell places out straight away, or get a lot of money into their own personal pockets instead of like the band itself, and just the harsh realities of being a musician. And I think as soon as people relax and calm down and realise, even though it's a reality that there's not a great deal of money in it and it shouldn't be that focus, I think if you accept it and you become happy and satisfied with the fact that you're doing something and you have the opportunity to entertain and express your art, creatively and whatnot, then you probably find that you get a lot more success long term, because you're doing it from a genuine spot, a genuine place, and you're doing it for the love of it. And I think that's when people sort of turn around and connect with you a lot better and want to support you a lot more, because they can see it's coming from a genuine place, as opposed to somebody who's being over ambitious for the wrong reasons, with the motive of just looking for success and a number, a tally, or whatever it might be at the end of the day.
Oh, definitely. And there's also, on top of all that, there's that willingness to sacrifice, and it's a cliche, but if you're not willing to make sacrifices in, especially our industry, you're gonna have a hard time. So yeah, definitely.
All right, so I'm gonna put a bunch of links to some music and whatnot. So I'll grab some preferred tracks from you later on after this. So we'll put that in the show notes and stuff like that. So just anybody who hasn't heard any of Electrik Dynamite stuff, I don't know if there's any. Have you guys recorded anything for Midnight Parlour in the past? Not.
Yeah, no, we do have a 2-track. It's up on Bandcamp. So
okay, cool.
Again, it's one of those standard things. If you're going to actually announce yourself as a band, you do better to have everything ready: photos, audio. It doesn't make sense to be like, oh, check out my new band, and you've got a Facebook page and you've got nothing on there. You just look like an idiot. Like,
I love it.
Just take some time, just get some stuff. It's not that hard these days.
That's cool. Band 101 straight away. I've always said that. I think it's good in a way to get out there and play and whatnot, but I think you can do that, but don't go out there and start heavily promoting yourselves or trying to get attention when you've got nothing to provide at that point in time. So yeah, I agree. I think that's great that you've already got something there that you as a starting point, and then you go out there and promote yourselves afterwards.
Yeah,
so that's cool.
Well, that's the other thing. It's like, how are we expecting any booking agents that have never heard of us to book us unless there's product? But at the same time, it's like, a perfect thing is you were like at the start of this call, hey, I didn't even realize you're doing this other band. It's because I haven't made a big deal out of it, because there's nothing to make a big deal out of yet. Once we start playing shows and I've got something to promote, you probably would have heard of us. But up until then, it's like, all right, I've got this band, I'm having some fun, we're jamming, we've got songs, we're trying to book some shows. Why would I need to be promoting it? What will that achieve? Nothing much yet. Let me get some stuff and then I can push it, So it makes complete sense when you hadn't heard of it because I hadn't been pushing it.
Yeah,
but we've got the stuff there,
Well, I'd hate to say I haven't heard anything and then you were like just busting your balls to promote it and you're like spamming everybody and whatever, and I'm like, oh, I haven't heard a thing about it, and you're like, oh geez, there goes all my marketing skills down the drain.
Well, there you go. See, and that's it, man. Like it all actually makes sense when, like, if I had been doing all that, you would have heard about it. Let's be honest.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. And I think I'll put some links up to that as well, and I think that's just a fundamental thing that a lot of bands forget. I like in Sydney at least, and I've seen it everywhere we play, especially when we do our own shows around the country, and you get guys that come up to you and start talking up their band.
Oh my God.
and they say something like, oh man, yeah, I play for this band, and it's some like really sort of stereotypical heavy metal band name. And yeah, cool. And they're like, oh yeah, man, we'd love to play with you guys sometime. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Do you have any music or anything like that? Like, have you guys got a Facebook page or whatever? And they're like, no, we haven't done any of that yet. Yeah, we're gonna do that probably in the next 6 months and blah blah. And then you sort of go, so I would say yes to playing with you based on the merit of you talking to me right now.
Yeah,
just because you're a nice person, like, is that enough to get it over the line? So it's.
I know it sucks to say that, but that's the truth, man. I mean, like, I'm big on networking. Whenever I speak to someone that's younger than I and they're working out ways to make it, I can't say I've made it because I definitely have not, but to break through to that first step in playing music in a scene, it's like network. You've got to talk to people and you've got to talk to bands, you've got to befriend things, but that being said, you can't be pushing shit down people's throats.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if you don't have product.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's fine to get out there and talk yourself up in a modest way, but to do it with a bit of substance and something behind it. There's no point just going out there and trying to boast about how great you are, but there's just nothing there to show for it. So, and I've told a few people in the past, if you're at a stage where you're trying to build a network of people so that it's sort of like building an email list, from a marketing point of view, and you want to have that mailing list there ready to go. So when you do have a product, you can smash them with it, and that's fine. But you need to, when you approach someone and you talk to somebody, it's not about what potentially you're going to do. You need to sort of build rapport based on just a personal level with no sort of agenda behind it. So it's just a genuine approach where you're building relationships, not so much trying to push an idea or anything onto anybody. And that's probably the most organic way of networking without a product to start off with.
I think what we should do after this, or what you should do, is market this particular podcast episode, do the old Facebook sponsor post, and target it to people that want to make it in the music industry or take those first steps. So we can call it 101 How to Be a Beginner Musician with Andy and Duane, because that's basically what this whole talk's been about.
It. And it'll be the only podcast episode where you've got to pay $1 for the download, and then we'll just start profiting from it. Yeah.
No, damn straight, man. Damn straight. We'll have some T-shirts. It'll be like Andy and Duane's 101 Beginner's Guide to Being a Muso T-shirts, and we'll get that all sorted. And we'll have merch. We'll do like a cool promo photo with just you and I, and we'll get our .com, man. We'll do like a crowdfunding campaign to raise money for nothing. Yeah. But just to raise money because, we need to drink beer somehow.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we're starving musicians, so we need to find ways of funding our alcohol consumption, so that's fair enough. We probably should I probably should just cut out this whole section because we don't want to just let the cat out of the bag and tell everyone what we don't want anyone stealing our ideas. So.
Oh yeah, no, we've copyrighted this, mate. I've already spoke to my lawyers. We're sorted, buddy. We're all sorted.
Oh, that's it. I think there's a hole there, and I've thought about this, and there's a few things that I've sort of got in the back of my head to try and do this year to get things out to try and help people that are not just like kids that are getting started in a band and whatnot, but even just people that are sort of your bedroom bedroom musicians that have got not so much a warped sense of what it's all about, but just haven't been exposed or understand what it is or what needs to be done to be in a band, and regardless of your age. And I always thought, geez, there's just so many things that are, I'm the same boat as you. I'm not somebody that's made it, so to speak, but there's enough experience there and knowledge that, from a basic fundamentals point of view, there's probably a lot out there that that can be passed on to these people. So there's a hole there. I think it's something that it could be milked a little bit.
Well, to be honest, you're right. I actually love giving knowledge to people, especially young people that I see that have got something special about them, and they're in it for the right reasons. They got talent, they're in a band, they're doing well, and for whatever reason we're in conversation, and I'll gladly let them know my experiences and provide them with as much knowledge as I can give them as someone at my level. They're going to get better knowledge from management and from people that are trained and skilled in these things, but I can teach them what I know from a hands-on point of view and a DIY point of view. And sometimes those first few things are little things that we take for granted, that we've been and done and worked out ourselves. People just don't know.
Yeah.
So, it's like you have bands that rock up to venues without sound engineers or not knowing that they need, my first band did that. We rocked up, first ever gig, played at the Art House, had no sound guy.
Yeah,
and I know, how it went. We're a band from Bendigo, we came down, first ever show in Melbourne, get down here, we're like, what's a sound guy? We had no idea, and a guy in the audience actually turned out being Sam Johnson, who works at Three Phase, and he's quite well known around here. That was back in the days when he was working with DW at Back Beach, I think. He happened to be in the crowd. He's like, dudes, do you need a sound guy? And he looked after us. Like, not many people would do that these days, So, we still love Sammy for that. And whenever, I've always loved the guy, and it was just as a testament to what kind of person he was, for no reason, just helping out this clueless bunch of kids that had no idea. And it's this stuff still happens. So, if I'm ever around and I'm ever talking to someone that, asks about things, I'm more than happy to give the advice and let them know, because it's only prosperous to the scene, because, there's a certain amount of bands at certain levels, but you also need the new blood. You got to keep everything invigorated. You got to bring new 18-year-old kids out to over 18 shows. And how do you get those young people? It's like generally through their friends' bands.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see it in Sydney. I've mentioned this to a few people in the past, where the Sydney scene's become, in some circles anyway, it's become quite old and tired, because there's just been such a desperate push to try and retain people that are getting older. And we're trying to keep that same audience that's been there for the last 10 years to keep convincing them to come out to shows. And you're going to have your core fans that are just dedicated and love music and whatnot. But then you've got other people that just get swept up in life. They get married, they have kids, they get a house and whatever, and they end up getting a fairly demanding job, and it becomes that much more of an effort to get out and see bands. And there just seems to be this desperation to try and convince those people to keep coming out to shows, when that's fine. You can still try and do that on occasion, but a lot of that energy needs to be focused on the next wave of people that are becoming of age and are ready to come out and experience what live entertainment's all about. And I think that's why I think the hardcore and metalcore scenes that's why those scenes have been so strong over the years, because there's just been such a focus of grabbing people even before they turn 18 and getting them enthusiastic about music. And I think in some other circles we've probably tended to neglect that a little bit. Yeah,
well, think about it though, it's all cyclical, and prior to the explosion of hardcore and metalcore, it was like new metal and pop punk were the scenes that you were into when you're under 18. It's like back in the day you loved, your Korn and your Slipknot and your Cold Chamber or whatever, or your Strung Outs and your NoFXs and Pennywise and all that. You were generally in one of those kind of scenes, or Friends of Rom or whatever, and then you kind of got older and found other music. And it's like these days, it's like you get into, instead of getting into those bands, you get into the metal or the hardcore side, whether it be metal or punk, and get into the modern stuff that kids listen to, whether it be Parkway Drive or or whatever, so it's cyclical, and it'd be interesting to see what's the next evolution of what those under 18s fans are going to get into musically, and what kind of scene are they going to spurn on, because it's their love as a young age which filters through to the top of the pile and really affects what is big for those larger bands.
Oh, for sure. And I think the more that a very easy formula for bands, if they want to at least get themselves into the conversation of becoming a popular band, is to make that effort and go out and play those youth halls and those little community centres and play for the guys and girls that are in their mid-teens and grab them then when they're still trying to get their head around what music's all about and discovering all these great bands, past and present, and that's when you're going to build your loyalty. And that's why those bands like Parkway and The Affliction and Northland and all these guys are just becoming and have become huge, because they've just slugged their guts out and spent a lot of time focusing on those younger crowds. And then obviously as they've grown, their audience has grown as well. But I think most of my sort of experience has been from your old school heavy metal scene, and that's always been sort of pitched to people that are over 18 and people that are sort of more in their mid to late 20s and up. And
definitely. And
this just hasn't been a focus to go and try and find the young kids, and I think that's probably hurt a lot of those bands, and hopefully there'll be another band that comes along that plays sort of that style of music and gets it and really sort of makes a proactive approach to grab the next wave of kids.
Yeah, well, one key thing you said there was loyalty, and loyalty can be built in many different ways for artists. And funnily enough, probably unexpectedly, I actually just finished up doing 60 days on the road with Guy Sebastian, working crew, like organising merch and doing a bunch of other things. But the loyalty that man has in the regional areas, it was a regional tour, it was just paramount. It's like, because he's done this so many times, and he's still one of the only Australian artists that will go on the road and slog it out and play all the regional towns, the people there are so devout to him for looking after them. Every night behind the merch table I'd have people coming up going, "Oh, it's so amazing that you guys come here and give us a chance. We're a small town, and you come and play this 600 seat theatre or this 400 seat theatre and just blow us away." And it's like, it means so much. And these people are like, all forms of life, all demographics, couples, young, old, kids, everything, and they're just so grateful. And it's like, he's built loyalty up by working his ass off well.
It's incredible, because, I mean, when you mentioned, because you briefly mentioned it last night, and I sort of went, oh yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
No.
but in Australia, I mean, we've got a big country, and there's a lot of regional centres, but from your stock standard touring act, you mainly hit the capital cities and probably the larger towns, and that's about it. But for 60 dates, that's a hell of a lot, and that's a lot of places. And I mean, I haven't seen what those dates look like, but I would assume that a large majority of them are places that most bands probably would never go.
Well, it was actually 35 shows across 60 days. So there's a lot of back-to-backs, but there's also like a couple of day offs here and there.
Yep.
It literally started in Shoalhaven in New South Wales, which
not far from me. Yeah.
Not far from you. We're right up the east coast, right up to Cairns, Townsville, etc. Flew across to Darwin. Then we flew back into Sydney, and then we did Newcastle. Sorry, not Newcastle. We flew into Sydney and did somewhere near Sydney as well, and then just drove all the way down through regional Victoria, across to Mount Gambier, and then back. So it's just a lot of little places here and there on the way up. And yeah, the other thing is, like, hardcore bands have started to do that too. Over the last 5 years, you get those regional tours, whether it be Prom Queen back in the day or Parkway, or even now like Northland and Arts Wake and that kind of vibe. And, they get out and they play these regional shows, and the kids, like, even if the kids grow out of it stylistically, they still have a place in their heart because they saw these awesome bands when they were young. And when they come back when they're older, even if it's not really, they don't like their new album or they're not really a fan anymore, you often see these people still come out to support them because they were there for them when they were young. And, it's awesome to see, because, if you work hard, why don't you reap the rewards? And the fans will reward you for it.
Oh, for sure. I remember I don't know how many years ago, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, probably longer, back, there's a Brisbane band, Wish for Wings, that they were coming through town, and a friend of mine was helping out with them, and he invited me along, and they were playing this community centre down in sort of southern Sydney, and I remember seeing the venue and went, oh geez, I've never heard of a band playing there. And then I rocked up to the place, and it was this dingy little town hall, this little community hall, and I walked in, and my immediate reaction is I laughed and I went, what a joke, like why the fuck would you play here? And before I knew it, this place just got packed, and it was only a tiny room, but it was packed, and there was kids like just jumping off each other's shoulders and throwing themselves around the room, and it was just absolute chaos, and the energy in that room was just insane.
Ridiculous,
yeah. And they had a couple of mates that came along that were selling merchandise and whatever, and they were just swamped. Everyone had their probably their parents' money or whatever money they'd earned from working at Kmart down the road, and they were just stocking up on merch. They were selling so much stuff, and I mean they were very DIY. They were just, there was no frills about them. They just got up. They had a small setup that they were doing, but it worked. And I noticed that with a lot of other bands that were doing that at that level, and they would just play every nook and cranny, anywhere that had an open area that they could set up a PA with a bit of power, and they could get away with doing it. They were just jumping in there, and the kids were coming along, and that's why those bands were doing as well as they were. And but I think a lot of other metal bands probably turn their nose at that and go, oh, well, I wouldn't do that. And I sort of, when I walked into that room, I was sort of from that perception as well. I go, oh, I would never play in this shithole. But but they probably had a better crowd than what we'd been doing for most of that year at the time. So it was it's an interesting perspective. And I think in the end, it's all about connecting with people and building that loyalty, and whether it be consistently going out to places that people don't normally get bands, or just connecting with young people in general. I mean, it's just there's a lot of basic concepts that bands just forget to do, and the successful ones get it.
I've been blessed to swing between scenes, so I've seen the good and the bad from both worlds, and it still comes down to the same principles. If you do things right and you work hard, as I said before, you got the ethic and blah blah blah. You generally got a good chance of taking the steps required to kind of break through, And I just love seeing bands that work hard get rewarded.
Absolutely. And this might be a good segue, because talking about sort of younger crowds, and I mean you mentioned earlier about doing that tour for 3 or so weeks with Diada's Murder quite a few years ago, before they sort of just went ridiculously massive. But they already had a pretty strong and loyal fan base by that stage already. But I mean, you guys have been quite good with sort of trying your best to cater for that younger crowd as well. But you yourself have been heavily sort of involved with sort of that crowd that have at least coming to the age of 18 and being legally allowed to come out and socialise and drink alcohol and whatnot. And you do marketing, and do you actually work at the venues because I know I'm sort of all over the shop at the moment, but you do marketing for Destroy All Lines, but it's it's a facet off them that handles a couple of their clubs, their scene clubs.
So just as you said, you're a bit over the place, but basically, long story short, I used to work for the Staple Group, which included Destroy All Lines, I worked for Attractive, which was a promotion company. Then I got promoted, got moved across to the unified sector of the company, and I worked and managed and ran the 2400 merchandise division. So I was always involved with, bands like North Lane and Hearts Wake, and, they're some of my good friends, and it's amazing to see how awesome they're doing. After 5 years with those guys, I moved on, and I decided, I would freelance, which was something we spoke about before, but I'd freelance over this summer and then go back across to London. But in that time, the Short Lines gave me a call back again and said, look, there's this role available. We'd love you to come back across to us. And so I did. It's perfect. I work from home, part-time hours. It allows me to do other stuff in my life. It allows me to live the life I've wanted to. I'm happy for it. I'm better for it. I don't have to wake up at 8 o'clock to work every day, and I don't have to stay back every night. And it's just so refreshing to be in a situation that makes me feel inspired again. Like makes everything around me better. It's sort of relationships with my partner. It's like with the bands that I'm in. With my extracurricular activities that I love to do. It's like everything's just, I'm more passionate about everything because I'm not burnt out. But basically, yeah, my role's national marketing manager for Distraught Lines, which is the clubs and events sector, not the touring. The clubs Australia-wide, from last night in WA through to, Bang and Plastic and Stay Gold in Victoria, Memories and Hot Damn in New South Wales. I help to a degree curate the event, but most of that's done by the state coordinators. But then when we do have the events locked in, I will approach our designers and get with direction and get the artwork generated. I'll get the events online and I'll roll out the social marketing part of it. So it's not like it's not like marketing when you're an agency and you're dealing with SEOs on websites and all this extra stuff. It's basic, almost punk rock marketing, where it's like, this is the product, let's put it in people's faces, and that's essentially what we do. So
it's probably in some ways, and probably because of the demographic that you're trying to get, it's probably more of an effective way than some of those more elite or strategic type of marketing tactics that agencies are probably more well known for. So having that sort of that punk DIY attitude probably has a better impact on those types of people, because, and this is the sort of segue that I was attempting to try and get into, is that for a lot of these clubs across the country, I mean, there is a broad range of people that go there, but to me it always seems like it's definitely a group of people that are just hitting 18, and probably between 18 and mid-20s as the core sort of demographic, and then you'll have older people that do come, but that target audience appears to be around that age group. Would that be correct?
Yeah, no, that's totally correct. The 18 to 25, to 30, like that's the demographic. And as like with live event, like with gigs, it's cyclical. So, kids that come to the clubs from 18, they might party for 4 or 5 years because it's the best time of their life. They're out every weekend, they're partying, they're having a good time, but then they start growing up. They can't party as much, and then suddenly they can't party because they're in serious relationships, or suddenly they've bought a house, or they've got a career as a job. So then, around the age of 25, they genuinely stop coming. And then they'll come out, they'll have the one wild night out once every couple of months, and they come back out again. It's not that they're not welcome. It's just the lay of the land, and it's how, the way I see it's how the demographics, how it's cyclical. So, you get the new blood in, they come and they party, they have the best years of their life. Like we all did it. And yeah, you get to a spot where you just can't do it as much as you'd love to do it anymore. But then at the same time, not only does that cycle, music style cycle within there as well. So the music that you want to hear in there that was popular for the last 5 years is suddenly not popular because the new 18-year-olds to 20-year-olds are listening to something different, which the clubs are now catering for, because that's a larger demographic. So then you hear less of the stuff that you want, and it just unfortunately naturally happens like that. And that's also something that we work with and we try and work around, and we're always trying to improve the clubs and make sure everyone's welcome, because that's essentially what we want. We want it to be a alternative club and a awesome place to go, but we want it to cater to everyone. But at the same time, you can't do all that. So we just do what we can to make our people happy and provide the best experience we can when you walk through the doors. And that's really all you can ask.
And it's still a business, and you've got to make sure that it continues to stay viable and in order for it to cater for everybody and be the best possible thing for everybody involved, is that you've got to have the business hat on in some respects. And as you said, moving with the times and making sure that whatever's there is catering for that next wave of young people coming through and wanting to go out and enjoy themselves. So keeping an eye out of what everybody's reacting to in a positive way. Is there any particular I was going to use the word tactics, and I'll stick with that word. Is there any particular tactics that you guys use to try and ensure that crowd is aware of the club? Like, I mean, I know that you mentioned about the cycles of music and what's popular and whatnot, but is there anything, I mean, it might just be purely from an online social media point of view, but is there anything in particular that to try and bring these people in?
Yeah, well, look, obviously I'm not going to give away everything that the company does, obviously, because then other people can do what we're doing and try and do better, but essentially it's employing the right people. If you have the right people in the right positions, those people will do their jobs and do them the way they need to be with our target demographic in mind. And it's like, if you don't, like if we hired someone, or if they hired someone instead of me, obviously, in a marketing role, that had a marketing degree, that had only worked at an agency, that had only ever wore a suit, sure, they might do a great job. But then when does the product or the club start swinging? And when does, when does the artwork start changing, and do the little things start changing, and then suddenly are you looking at a club that you don't recognize anymore? So, whereas I'm no spring chicken, I'm not 20 to 25, I'm not the target demographic. I'm still active, and because I still play music, and I still have a lot of young friends. I still go to shows, I still go to clubs, I still have a good time. I'm still young at heart. I've still got what we want in mind for what we do. So
it's just getting that group of like-minded people that all understand what the end goal is and what you're trying to achieve, from what the place is meant to look like, and what sort of vibe it creates, and an atmosphere, and what I guess the end result of what are you providing to people. And there's not many
clubs can say they've been around for 10 years, let alone companies that have been around longer than the 10 years.
Absolutely.
I mean, Bang itself had its 10-year birthday this year. That's providing a simple thing to a certain demographic for 10 years, and they've done it well enough that it still pulls good numbers, and it's still, people know about it. And outside of the demographic, people do know about the clubs, so they're about Bang, so that's a testament to what they've done before me, and now that I'm part of what we do, it's like, right, how am I going to take what they've done really well and apply a few different things that I've learned in my time and roll it out and hopefully improve.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I think just the fact that, and it ties in with what we were saying before about bands continuously trying to get that next wave of people in, and from a business point of view with this and these clubs, is that it's always having the focus that we need to ensure that we're remaining fresh, and we have things to offer, and we're still an exciting place for people to come for that next wave of people. We're not desperately trying to cling on to the existing people and trying to convince them to come back each and every week, or how regularly the nights are. So I think that proactive approach has probably been a huge benefit, and probably a massive part of the success of at least Bang, but probably a number of the other clubs as well across the country.
Oh, definitely, man. And that's again, it's just understanding the cycles and the peaks and troughs. It's all essentially, it's all advanced analytics, but it's particularly directed towards what we're after. It's like if this was a study group of cigarette smokers, or booze drinkers, what kind of booze do you drink, and what age group, everything you can do in life, you can put teams behind to work out stats and work out where best to target this or do that or whatever. And it's like, we do that on a much more DIY way and keep it organic, and that way nothing ever feels stale in the product, because it's real. It's not like we don't have a formula for what we do. There's no right or wrong. There's no, it's just a bunch of people that get together, brainstorm ideas, come up with things, make it happen, budget it out, make sure it's going to, make sure it's going to break even, make sure it's going to make some money, make sure it's going to be good for the company, and fucking roll out kick-ass events and keep getting people in. It's like, you got good product, people, word of mouth also helps.
Yeah, so, absolutely. Definitely. You need
free marketing there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. If you can get people enthusiastic about something, then that's half the battle done straight away. So it's
that's the way I am too, man. It's like, if I was running my own business and I was acquiring talent, or I was acquiring everything, I wouldn't want to have 5 million different things and then spread everything super thin over that and provide a shit service to everything. I'd want to have, my key businesses under me, or my key talent, or my key whatever, and nurture them and grow them and really raise them and provide good service for all them, and that would then roll over into the next row of talent I get or whatever it is, that's the way I personally like to do things.
Yeah, it's cool. Oh, it's awesome. Well, I've got a crazy idea that you can steal straight off me now, and you can credit it for yourself. But you should have a shit meme night at Bang or something like that, where you just have on your projector screens just non-stop shit memes that keep getting posted up on the walls all the time, and then you can have crap.
It's basically going to be memes of you, yeah.
There's an ulterior motive there. You got me straight away.
You just wanted some free promo. Yeah. There'll be all shit memes of you in a Lord t-shirt, and you get all this, mate. I'm into it, mate. Everyone heard it here first.
That's it. Oh, cool. You mentioned it before. We touched on it briefly in different facets, but you're going off to the UK in a few months' time, and you're just at this point in time doing a lot of freelancing. And freelancing, in a general sense, is something that I find fascinating, and something that can be quite, I think, quite lucrative and quite. I'm just trying to think of the right word. It can create quite a bit of freedom.
Definitely. And it's also scary as fuck.
And then on the opposite side, it can create a lot of anxiety and stress about it as well, because of that onus that is on you to produce and to find work, and obviously bring in that money that's not always regular and reliable. Do you want to just, you don't have to go into crazy detail or anything as such, but just to give an idea, because from what you say, you've got a plan at this point in time and you're doing freelance work before you go overseas. So it's more of a case that you've got these short-term goals at the moment to just build some money up and keep you moving for the interim. But what sort of things are you doing at the moment from a freelancing point of view?
Well, just quickly, like when I became, let's use this as a basketball term, when I became a free agent, I was shit scared. I'd been full-time employed since I was 18, so it was a whole new world for me. Luckily, my partner, she does a lot of freelance work in her off-season. Like, she works in festivals, primarily in the Euro summer. So she's done this before, and she's like, you know what, you can do it. You make good money. You're going to be fine, blah, blah, blah. And I was just stressing out. But then, like anything, it just started happening. Like, I had relationships with the Love Police. They're a merchandising company. I had relationships with them prior. So suddenly I was doing selling gigs for them. My partner, she done work for driving and like Live Nation and a few other companies like that, doing running and production assistants and that kind of stuff. And suddenly I was doing driving gigs. I'd done some stage managing and that kind of work. Suddenly I was doing a bit of stage managing at a couple of festivals, and it's like it all happened. Like, it all just started happening because if, not to toot my own horn, but if you're good at something or you're capable of something, chances are people will talk and you'll get more work. So luckily I had those contacts and it started rolling through, and that's how I got the Guy Sebastian gig. It was to Love Police. They needed someone to go on the road for 60 days. Even though I'd only done X amount of shows for them since being, freelance, they knew I was more than capable of doing it. And when I jumped on that tour, I started off as the merch coordinator and the merch seller, but then I also became a runner, which was something similar to what I do here. Then I also did the truck load in and load out with them, so crew work, which is also something else I've done. And then I helped set up backline and stage with them, which is also something else I've done. So all my skill sets then applied to this tour, and it allowed me to become multi-dimensional on the road with them, and it was really highly appreciated. I got along with that crew exceptionally well, and they're all amazing dudes, and they're all friends to this day. As a matter of fact, I want to do a shout out to Anatole from Guys Front of House. He come along to our Sydney gig with Buck Cherry, and he mixes for nothing. Oh, that's cool. Just because he's a legend, and he probably didn't want me to say that on this, but I need to throw a shout out to him. It was we had awesome feedback that night. We had a blast, and I can't thank him enough. So, but basically that's it. You give yourself the ability to do these things, and you can do it. And then while doing the freelancing thing, I obviously got this marketing gig, which I was able to work out part-time hours to allow me to keep freelancing. And basically I do less work for a lot more money than I used to do. I work in a full-time role, in a high-stress role. So I can't be happier. And, I look forward to going across to, this time I'm going across to London purely to holiday. be over there. You know, I've got a couple of things on that, you know, I'm not going to talk about, but, you know, my girl, she's going to go over there and she's got an awesome couple of contracts doing some big festivals over there. I'm just going to go over and mooch off her and have a sick time. So
Awesome.
enjoy the summer, you know, like why the fuck would I want to sit here in Melbourne to freeze my tits off through our shitty winters, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And it must be, I mean, as I said, it's something that fascinates me quite a bit. And I think, you know, it's the usual old school stigmas attached to things like freelancing, where it's not a stable job. You don't have your entitlements, you don't have your superannuation and blah blah. But all those things, I think you get yourself anyway. And I think if you put the onus back on yourself to go out there and source work and whatnot, and you're the perfect person for it, where you go out there, you do a great job, and you're a social person, and you build a network of people around you, which then leads to more and more opportunities down the track. And that's what the perfect freelancer does, is that they use the opportunities that they do get to then build a reputation, and then in turn get more and more opportunities down the track. So then that sort of I assume would take a lot of the stress off with going, oh shit, where's my next payment going to come from? You know, where's the next job going to come from? It's more of a case of you build up that reputation as an independent person that's reliable and gets the job done.
Oh, definitely. It's exactly the same as running your own business. So I've got a lot of friends that are tattoo artists, they're incredible artists, what they do, and they all say the same thing. They hate putting money aside for tax and the planning behind it. And, you know, it's not just simply you work, make money, blah, blah. It's not that easy. You've got to plan. And freelancing is the same thing. It's like, okay, this amount of money is coming in this time. I don't have anything else due for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Nothing's coming in. I don't have any jobs, so I'll budget my life accordingly. And do you know what happens in that 3 weeks? Generally, you get another job or another 2 jobs, and suddenly you're like, oh, here's this bit of extra money. Do I put it aside? Do I spend it? Do you know what am I going to do with it? Because you haven't budgeted for it, so it's a bonus. So it creates a different mindset with you, and it actually allows. You know, I like to live a pretty fun lifestyle, so it helped me pull my head in. And that being said, I pull my head in, but I'm still having more fun than I used to. So you kind of do the math. I'm saving now, and I'm putting stuff away, and I'm paying off credit cards, but I'm still partying. I'm still having a good time, and you know, I still just going to shows. I'm probably doing more than
it's a big mental game, isn't it? Because I think people sort of. From a not a lazy point of view, but I think a lot of people just from a knee-jerk reaction will look at, you know, in order to have fun and enjoy my life, I need a shitload of money to be able to do it. And I think there's an underlying panic and anxiety that's attached to it. And then as soon as that money isn't the same anymore, whether that be a job change or not having a job anymore or whatever that might be, there's this real sense of panic that suddenly your life's in shambles and you can't enjoy yourself. And I always loved, and I always tell people this, when I first moved to Sydney 10 odd years ago, and I came down with no job, and within a couple of weeks I found a job, and it was just a crummy office job and nothing much to it, and it was bugger all money, but I never, that first year of being in Sydney, I just did so much stuff. Every night of the week I was doing something. I was out there having a great time and, you know, doing everything in excess and getting a bit crazy, but you found a way to make it happen, you know, and it was exciting and fun to have that challenge, that going, okay, well, I've only got so many dollars left for the rest of the week or the rest of the month or whatever it is. How can I get creative here to ensure that I still have a great time? And it becomes a bit of an adventure. It can be a lot of fun.
Well, that kind of swings all the way back around to bands, you know, and this is a generalisation, but you generally see the bands with the least do the most. Because, you know, like when you've got a full-time job and you're worried about money, you're worried about life stress and blah, blah, your music's suffering, right? Because you're not being creative. You look at all the great bands in the past, it's like, I'm going to use a really bad example, like Guns N' Roses, they had nothing, you know. What they did have, they pissed away, and they wrote amazing music because they sacrificed everything to have a good time and to play rock and roll. You know, they lived on top of each other. They lived in squalor. You know, they stole from girlfriends. They did this, they did all that just for the sake of rock and roll. And it's like that mentality doesn't apply and wouldn't work to this day because times have changed and, you know, society's changed. But the root of that is still there. It's like if you're willing to sacrifice. I got a good friend that he's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm quitting my job. I'm not going to do a job. I'm just going to focus on playing guitar. I'm moving back home. I'm going to focus on guitar and blah, blah, blah. And he's really turned himself around, and he's writing music, and he's having a sick time, and he's making money off it because he made those sacrifices, you know. It's so, but when he was living in a house, paying rent, working a job, hating life, he wasn't creative, and it was stifling, you know, what made him a great musician.
It's just all those old school status quos, you know, from an older generation, parents, or even just other people that you associate with through, you know, an office environment or a work site or whatever it might be, that having a permanent full-time role where you've got your regular payments coming through and your taxes and your super and whatever, and that's what equates to having a satisfactory, secure life, and then obviously ticking off the rest of the boxes of houses and marriage and kids and all those sort of things. And I think more and more people realise it now, that there's not one particular way that equates to a satisfactory life. And for that particular guy that you just mentioned, for him to quit his job and go back home, a lot of people would go, oh, geez, what a loser. I can't believe he just gave up a job and to go back to his parents' house. What the hell? Why would you do that, to go and play guitar? But regardless of whatever the outcome is, he does it because he loves it. You know, there's a love there for it, and he's the winner out of the whole thing, because he's doing something because he wants to. He's not forced to do it. So it's cool.
It's just again, as you said, it's the old school status quo. It's like prior generations putting like the ripple effect of old opinions, and it's like, if you know, we're not here to make political change, we're not here to make social change, but you know, if you start doing things that you want to do, start living the life you want to live, as cheesy as it sounds, you're probably going to enjoy it more. You know, money is not everything. Happiness is worth way more. You know, money doesn't buy good health, but happiness, you generally stay healthy. You know, there's simple things in life that you just can't do if you're struggling. But if you're happy, you make it happen, you know.
I think that might be a very positive and uplifting note to end this episode off on. I think
good. the church of Duane.
Preaching to the choir, man. Preaching to the choir. But I think, I mean, a big thing about this podcast, and I mean, there was an agenda to begin with the concept of it, where I thought it's a bit of a subtle way to push the band a bit more, but then it sort of very quickly morphed into something where I'm all about changing the way that I look at life for myself, but by people listening each week, I put up an episode and hearing what other people go through and the challenges that they have and the worries that they have, but then also the things that have worked for them as well. It just gives a bit of reassurance to people that you don't have to do something one particular way. And if something means a lot to you and you love it, and you know, if those things sort of fall into place, then you can go for it and you don't have to worry about what other people think. And
definitely, man. I mean, like, when I first saw that you started to do this, I was stoked. I know what you like as a dude. I know the connections you've got. I knew there'd always be good content. You'd always have good interviews. And I know you've always got like a pretty unbiased and open view of how a lot of things go. And that's generally what you need as a presenter. And, you know, the shows that you've done have been awesome. I'm really stoked for you on a personal level. It's just cool to see one of my mates doing something that he loves outside of playing music and making something of it, you know. You know, it's not for money. It's just a passion project, and this kind of stuff grows, and it's just it's cool to see, bro.
Thanks, man. And like, for me, there's some selfish intentions about it, because for me, it gives me a great excuse to talk to people. And
which you love talking.
I can't shut myself up half the time, so it's a good excuse to do that. But then for me, I grow every time I talk to somebody and I get something from somebody and go, oh yeah, like maybe next time I come to that situation, I won't make the wrong decision. I'll think for myself and not have to worry about a fear that doesn't exist, or, you know, or just take the plunge and go for it and see what comes of it. And
definitely. I think next time, though, if this, you know, in X amount of episodes or something, if I ever come back on the show, I'll make sure I'm in Sydney so we can have some beers while we're having a chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, because
that's selfish. Selfish on my behalf.
That's okay. I'm all up for it, and it might add a whole new dynamic to the episode as well.
It'll be a lot looser, that's for sure.
For sure. Well,
I was going to say there'd be a lot more talking about shit that no one gives a stuff about, but in that moment, that doesn't matter. We care about it.
Right. Everyone can skip if they get bored of it, or they don't understand what the slurring's all about. So, yeah, no, all good. What I'll do is I'll
Awesome,
put
man.
a whole bunch of links to all the stuff that we've spoken about, and I'll put a bunch of plugs for Electrik Dynamite and Midnight Parlour as well, so people can discover or check out what's currently happening. And we should catch up later in the year, maybe when you're back from the UK, and any of those secret things that might be on the horizon for you. We'll see what comes of it all.
Sounds good, mate. Look, it was an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on, and like, good luck with everything, whether it be Lord and the podcast, and just love life and health, man.
Yeah,
it's just good
likewise.
to hear from you.
You too, man. Take care. All right, see ya.
Cheers, brother.
Alrighty then. Thank you so much, team. Really appreciate it. Thanks for sticking around for that whole conversation. Another cool one to add to the vault of podcast guests that I've had to date. The list continues to get bigger and better all the time. So another person I've had on my list for a while that I'm able to tick off, and I'll definitely have Duane on again sometime in the future. And I think, as we said, maybe later on in the year or early 2017, and we'll find out a bit more about what he's been up to for the remainder of this year. A few little things before we wrap up very quickly. As always, and I mentioned in the intro, iTunes, Stitcher, whatever bloody other podcast players are out there. I'm on most of them. YouTube as well. If there's any way to rate, review, share, comment, like, whatever it might be, just a couple of minutes of your time will have a dramatic impact on this podcast. And the big thing about this, and while it is selfish for me because I love the attention, the more people that listen to this and become aware of the podcast, the bigger and better this can be for me and for you guys as well. So it ensures that I can get more and more people on the podcast, maybe some people that are from circles that normally I wouldn't be associated with, or maybe people that are a little bit more high profiled, whatever that might be. This is all about building that and getting it bigger and better. But it also helps bring a lot more awareness to a lot of key topics that I'm quite passionate about. A lot of self-development and anyway, a whole bunch of other topics that I've probably repeatedly just continuously gone over and over and over in previous episodes for those that have been listening from day dot. But this is all about making this podcast a community. And while my name's slammed all over it, this is really about a collective thing, and you guys listening and interacting and giving me feedback ensures that this community becomes more and more tight-knit and becomes bigger and better over time. So I try to give back to you guys as much as I can, and I will continue to do so. And there's a lot of things that I've got planned in the future to help make that a reality. So anything that you guys can do to continue to spread the awareness of the podcast, or even just podcasts in general, is greatly appreciated. Anyway, off my soapbox. Last thing very, very quickly is the podcast party, which I must say there is an informal title of the party that Mick Goddard has given me, which is the Andy Social. So I thought that was quite good. So I might informally title the party as that. So for anybody who isn't aware, I'm getting a bit of a shindig together for everybody who listens to the podcast. I'm not promoting this anywhere apart from on these episodes. So it is up to you guys as to whether you want to invite other people along or spread the word. Don't care. But I won't be doing it online or making any mention of it anywhere apart from on these episodes. That's just to make it exclusive, make it a little bit more special, and just to avoid a million different Facebook events getting sent out to people all the time. And I'm sure a lot of people will appreciate that. So what it is Saturday, May 28th at 6 p.m. The venue is the Fun Room at Frankie's Pizza by the Slice in Sydney's CBD. So if you're not familiar with the venue, you can listen to episode 32 of this podcast where I speak with Jordan McDonald, who is one of the head honchos behind the venue and beer master or craft beer master. He's been extremely generous and let me have the run of the Fun Room, which is one of the smaller bars within Frankie's Pizza by the Slice. And we'll have that from 6 p.m. Saturday, May 28th for 3 hours before it's open to the public, which usually opens at 9 o'clock. So if you can add up. Frankie's opens from 4 o'clock. So if you want to get down there early and have a few pre-drinks, by all means come down. Will more than likely be there from opening. And yeah, the whole basis of this is just purely to catch up, have some drinks, and talk a bit of shit. There's no agenda, there's no events, there's no schedule or anything as such, just a time, a location, and just come along. And I'll try and do a few little things. I might bring some stuff along or whatever it might be, just to add a little bit more to the night. But overall, it's just an informal excuse to catch up and have some drinks. So if you are a Sydney person or you're in the immediate area, by all means come down. It would be great to share a few drinks and have a bit of a chinwag. If you're from interstate or another part of the world and you just happen to be coming through Sydney around that time, please reach out and let me know. It'd be great to get you along, and I can give you some details of how to get there. If for anybody that doesn't know where Frankie's is, use Google. It's probably the easiest thing, but Frankie's has also got a Facebook page. There's a bunch of links on the website, andysocial.net, on episode 32 as well, if you want to get a bit more of an understanding of what that venue's all about and what potentially you're in for. But that's about it. I'll continue to plug that over the coming weeks leading up to the end of May, and reveal some more details as I come up with them. And yeah, thank you so much. As always, thank you for all the people that have tuned in for the first time. Really appreciate it, as I always say. And thank you, as always, for the people that are sticking around and have been here since day dot. It means a hell of a lot. And the fact that you guys are listening, and I can see those downloads each and every week and each and every episode. I know you're out there, so really appreciate all the support. And maybe I can keep saying really appreciate it over and over again. Anyway, enough. See you guys.